Hey there, welcome into the show. You're watching the San Francisco 49ers Report. I'm Chase Sr. And coming up, San Francisco got a pretty big break going into its Week 3 matchup against the Los Angeles Rams. And we're going to talk about that here on the show. And I know that San Francisco is banged up on the offensive side of the football. Christian McCaffrey's on IR. Deebo Samuel is not going to play. It's unlikely, according to Adam Schefter, that George Kittle is going to play against the Rams. But you thought that the Niners were banged up? The Rams are very banged up, and this could serve as a get-right game for San Francisco, especially on the defensive side of the football, and we're going to dissect that here over the next few minutes. I want to begin with this, though. The Rams are an NFC West rival, and the Rams and Niners have had some great games over the last several years under the watches of Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay. So if you hate the Rams, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and type Beat LA down in the comments section. Also, a programming reminder, we will be live on Sunday for our Niners-Rams watch party. Most viewed watch parties on YouTube for Niner games, and it's the best place to experience a Niners game day outside of being at the actual game. So be sure to hit that subscribe button. We also hit you with shows every single day with great news and analysis. So the Los Angeles Rams are very wounded. An extremely banged-up football team after 2 weeks of the season. And it's unfortunate because when the schedule came out and we saw this game slotted for Week 3, I looked at the Niners and the Rams as two powers in the NFC, two teams that I thought were going to be competing to win the NFC West, considering how good the Rams were to end last year when I believe they won 7 of their last 8 games. The offensive line protection got better. They started to run the football a lot better. Matthew Stafford was playing really good ball. There was the rookie star show for Puka Nacua. Kupp was out there balling. Sean McVay was doing a great job of calling the plays. And the Rams nearly went on the road and beat the Detroit Lions in the wild card round of the playoffs. They only lost by 1 as that game came down to the wire. But now I just don't see how the Rams are going to be able to overcome the injury bug, because look at the injury list for Los Angeles here, and these are just the notable Rams injuries. Kupp has a high ankle sprain. He's going to be out for a few weeks. Safety John Johnson, a really good player. He's out 4 to 6 weeks because of a shoulder injury. Left guard Jonah Jackson, he's on IR because of a shoulder injury. Wide receiver Puka Nacua re-aggravated a knee injury from training camp. He's on injured reserve with the PCL sprain. Offensive lineman Steve Avila, another really good player. He's on injured reserve with the knee injury. Another offensive line starter, Joe Noteboom, is also on injured reserve with an ankle injury. You have cornerback Darius Williams, who's on IR with a hamstring injury. And Tyler Higbee started off the season on injured reserve because late last year, unfortunately, he tore his ACL and his MCL. Now, reports did come out this week that all-pro wide receiver Kupp won't go on injured reserve, but it's a high ankle sprain. So signs point to him being out for a couple of weeks, and I've reached out to some doctors, and they've said, look, it's extremely rare for a wide receiver to be able to come back from a high ankle sprain in a couple of weeks. A reason why he might not be going on IR is because all of their IR designations are filled up because this team is so injured. And part of the good news that the Niners have gotten here is that maybe their defense is going to have one of those games where they can get the confidence up, they can figure out the play calling, they can figure out the scheme, they can figure out some personnel, and they don't have to cover Kupp or Puka Nacua. And Kupp, is a nuisance to cover. He's shifty, he has great footwork, surgical route running, very reliable hands. He can line up inside and outside, so he has positional versatility to his craft. This year, 50 snaps in the slot, 22 out wide, so primarily he does line up inside because that's just the more favorable matchup. And he has a great connection with Matthew Stafford. I feel as though Matthew Stafford sometimes is able to hit Kupp with eyes in the back of his head. The no-look pass in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago against the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, that connection, they just know where one another is going to be, and it's just an innate special connection that they have. And where this helps the Niners is especially on third down. Because Kupp is such a matchup nightmare, and because he can get open as one of the best route runners, with some of the best footwork, They can really carve you up on third downs. And San Francisco this year is giving up 59% of their third down conversions. That is second to last in the National Football League. And that is something that needs to be corrected. It is not sustainable. You can't win consistently if that's the case, because you're going to be going up against quarterbacks who are too talented. And if that keeps up, it will be a long year for San Francisco. And if it keeps up and the Niners continue to be semi-competitive, it would not surprise me if Brandon Staley is calling plays on the defensive side of the football. These Niners defensive stats, I get it. It's through 2 games. There are differences in the scheme, differences in personnel. Nick Sorensen's trying to feel things out as a first-time defensive coordinator, but they're 15th in points per game. They're 20th in yards per game. They are 30th in yards per play. 6.5. It's just not good enough. 31st on third down conversion rate and 24th in red zone scoring percentage. And Kupp and Nacua can really cause a lot of fits. And that's why this should be a get-right game, because this Rams team, as far as their receiver talent, they literally don't have a lot of bodies. Demarcus Robinson is now their number 1 wideout. Throughout his career, he's been a number 3, number 4. Jordan Whittington is a UDFA, more of a special teams player out of Texas. And I imagine without Kupp, he's going to be manning the slot. And then Tyler Johnson is going to be on the outside, and Tutu Atwell is one of the backups on the outside. There was buzz about him not even making the Los Angeles Rams 53-man roster. So to summarize that point, there is no depth at the wide receiver spot for Los Angeles in this game. And we've seen San Francisco struggle against Garrett Wilson, an elite receiver, Justin Jefferson, an elite receiver, and going up against especially a play caller like Kevin O'Connell last week. He was in his bag in confusing this Niners defense. And Sean McVay, even with the shorthanded team, is still an offensive mastermind. And San Francisco cannot take their opponent lightly here, because Matthew Stafford can still carve you up. And let me ask you this. Where does Matthew Stafford rank among the top quarterbacks in the NFC? Is he the best? He might be. He can make chicken salad out of chicken-ish. Phenomenal player. Now, coming up next here on the show, Niners-Rams info that you need to know if you want to be a more informed Niners fan. Is Brandon Aiyuk ready for an expanded workload? Will Jacob Cowing still return punts after a muff last week? And my keys to the game against the Rams. First, let's tell you about our friends at Game Time, making today's Niners Report possible. We really appreciate them for being today's sponsor. And I love going to sporting events because you can put together great memories, and I just love watching sports. But I also have other interests outside of the sporting realm. I love going to concerts because I love music. I love going to comedy shows because I enjoy the art of joke making and laughing. And Game Time is an app where you can get tickets to all those types of things. You get the best seats at the lowest price guaranteed. They specialize in last-minute tickets to save you money once you get in the door. I also love the features on the app where you can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. It's easy to use. You can access tickets from your phone. And if you want to go to a Niners game this year, plenty of tickets available. Niners-Rams at SoFi. It's been deemed Levi Stadium South. Plenty of tickets available for that game. And according to projections, 62% of the crowd expected to be rocking scarlet, red, and gold. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off. Terms apply. First purchase only. The Game Time Picks curation makes it easier to save more on all of these tickets, and we'll put that information down below in the comment section and in the description of today's show. Niners will travel to Inglewood, California, just outside of Los Angeles, to play at SoFi Stadium, which is otherwise known as Levi Stadium South. And according to Vivid Seats, at least 62% of the crowd will be rooting on San Francisco in this game. And you know what's also cool is that the Niners are the top-selling team in 44 counties in the state of California. The Rams, the top-selling team in only 2 counties. And Niner fans have been known to make a lot of noise when on the road at SoFi. And this forces the Rams into a silent count at times. Matthew Stafford has talked about this. Sean McVay has talked about it. Matthew Stafford's wife has complained about this on her podcast. It makes the Rams' job a lot more difficult. As far as the matchup between Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay, Shanahan used to be McVay's boss, and in the regular season, he's been his boss. Shanahan is 10-5 against McVay in his career, including the playoffs, the NFC Championship game in 2021. I know, still not over it. That includes 9 straight regular season wins up until the season finale last year when the Rams played their starters, but the Niners did not play their starters. They started Sam Darnold in that game, and unfortunately, he didn't look like he did last week, throwing 97-yard bombs. As for Brock Purdy's NFC West dominance, this is pretty crazy, right? He is 14-2 against the entire NFC. His only 2 losses coming on the road against Minnesota in back-to-back years. And in the NFC West, Brock Purdy is 8-0 against division foes. That is the 3rd best start ever for quarterback in the history of the NFL since the 1970 merger. Kurt Warner currently holds the record. Next up on the show, is Brandon Aiyuk ready for a bigger role? He said this week he felt better against Minnesota. He liked what he saw on tape. He felt as though his feet were under him. And after signing that 4-year, $120 million contract, where he was given $76 million in guaranteed money, everybody knows he's been off to a slow start. 6 catches for 71 yards in 2 games, no touchdowns. The explosiveness hasn't been there. His longest catch is 22 yards. His average separation, 4th lowest among all wide receivers. That does only account for when a receiver is targeted, but when he's been targeted, he's been blanketed. And he clearly hasn't been in shape after that hold-in, which was pretty much a holdout all throughout the summer. Jacob Cowing, will he remain as the punt returner for San Francisco? He had a really impressive preseason, a shifty playmaker who can line up inside, outside, is also a dynamic punt returner because of that shiftiness and the speed, the short area quickness to his game. He muffed a punt last week against Minnesota. Luckily, the Niners were able to pounce on that football, but he muffed a punt last week, and it wasn't good, and the Niners got lucky. Kyle Shanahan, though, giving the rookie a vote of confidence this week. He said that's one muff punt. Just when it comes to catching stuff, he's been as natural of a catcher as we've had in our 8 years here, just in practice, how he's been in the game. So, I don't think that you can bench a rookie after one muff punt. If you're going to complain about his lack of focus and him not bringing it against Minnesota, I think Fred Warner was the only Niner to bring it last week for San Francisco against the Vikings. Lastly, my keys to the game. Brock Purdy going to be without Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, most likely George Kittle. It's time to earn your money. For Brandon Aiyuk, without those marquee superstars, no more excuses. You got to be able to shoulder more of a workload, and you have to show up, and play elite football. The offensive line, take some pride. Should have been embarrassed after what happened last week. The defense has to fix their flaws. They should be able to do that against a shorthanded Rams team. And what helps an offensive line? When you run the rock. And because the Niners are going to be short in the passing game with their weapons, I think that Jordan Mason could be in store for 25, 30 carries, especially if the Rams can't stop the run. So speaking of this game, who you got? SF for the Niners, LAR for the Los Angeles Rams. Get those predictions in right now.